Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Solar Austin video in our series. Today, I have with me Jenny Everett. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
And I'm David Levesque, the program coordinator at Solar Austin. Today, we're going to talk about an amazing opportunity to support climate funding and initiatives here in the Austin region. So, Jenny, what is the organization you represent and what are you up to?
Yeah. Well, first of all, David, thanks for having me here. I'm a big fan of your work, as you know. So excited to talk with you about what we're working on with the Climate Action Fund. So I am one of the co-founders of something called the Central Texas Climate Philanthropy Collaborative, and that's an effort that we started a few years ago to try and catalyze more climate philanthropy here in Austin and Central Texas. And we created the collaborative because we were a group of individuals and citizens who were increasingly concerned about what's happening in our region, wanting to support more climate efforts, and realized that despite Austin being sort of the outdoor, environmental friendly, innovative town that it is, there wasn't really a place where people could go for information about climate philanthropy related issues here in Central Texas. And so we started by just convening people from the community and saying, what would it take to get you to do more for climate, more for the environment? And, one of the things that we heard, and I've certainly felt this myself as an individual who's trying to, donate more to these causes, is that the challenges that we're facing as a society when it comes to these issues feel very overwhelming, and there's so much that's happening, whether it's with extreme weather, with the cost of energy, with the impact on our communities, and also lots of different ways to go about combating it. And so people get quickly overwhelmed, and they say, oh, I want to support these things, but I don't know where to best invest my dollars. And that can be a pretty easy excuse to not do anything. And then the other issue is that many people already have their sort of focus area that they're working on. It might be education or poverty or health, and don't necessarily see the intersection with climate. And so we've done various things to try and, increase awareness around this and show some of those intersections. We have an issue brief on the intersection of climate and education. But we also wanted to make it easier for people who did want to donate to these causes to, quickly move money without having to spend a lot of time. And so in 2024, we did our first iteration of what we call the Central Texas Climate Action Fund. And the idea here was to simplify the process. So we picked a number of organizations that were working on different aspects of climate in our community and said, we will match donations to these organizations dollar for dollar up to a certain amount. And over the course of the entire campaign, we raised about $290,000 that we were able to grant out into the community and got a lot of positive feedback, both from individual donors as well as nonprofits that were excited about this, but also a lot of feedback on how we could improve the process. And so we are now in our second campaign of the Climate Action Fund. We have 10 organizations that we have selected. This year we had a community review process. So we actually had 47 organizations that submitted letters of intent. And then we had a group of community and expert reviewers to help us narrow this down to 10 organizations that we're raising money for from the community. And this year we have a match of up to $100,000. So, every dollar that's donated will be doubled.
Wow, that is terrific. Terrific. Good work. I appreciate it. Thank you for selecting Solar Austin as one of your benefactors. We really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
another good thing I think for everybody to understand is that there are still, so Solar Austin has been around since 2002 doing advocacy and education work in Austin. And as part of that, around $100 million has been invested actually by Austin Energy into solar programs in Austin. And that has been, I don't know if the right word is matched, but the property owners, because of that incentive program, because of the efforts of groups like Solar Austin and others, property owners have invested around $800 million, just to give you a sense of scale. There's somewhere around 18 to 19,000 solar installations in the city of Austin, mostly because of these incentive programs that advocacy groups have worked with city council and Austin Energy on to create, right? And I'm saying all that to say we are still we have another 200 megawatts of solar as our goal over the next 10 years as a city. And the matching from the federal government, we don't call it matching in that framework, but it still exists. I want everybody to understand that even though you probably heard in the news that it's going away, it still does exist, especially and for commercial solar projects, and that's what we focus on at Solar Austin. We get donations from groups like yourself and the Meadows Foundation, and then we give solar away for free to other nonprofits in the community like Co-op Radio and Keep Austin Fed. And through that program, we're able to get these incentives from Austin Energy that I just spoke about, as well as 30 or even sometimes 40% of the program paid for through the federal government incentives that still do exist, right? And so if you invested $10,000 today, that could easily turn into $15,000 or more through these other, we'll call them matching for now, components specifically that exist within solar. And I think it's important to understand that still does exist. And secondly, that it is on a limited time frame. So now is a great time to be investing or donating into the solar part of the climate action work that we're all doing. So that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's
So
really cool.
yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about who else is supporting the Climate Action Fund? Like what types of groups prefer or like to donate?
Yeah. So the initial fund what is backed by a group of individual donors who again wanted to incentivize others in the community to be able to give to climate, but it's designed for, every range of donors. So whether you're giving $20 or $2,000 or greater, we can take those funds, we're pooling it together into one fund and then dispersing it amongst these 10 organizations with the match. And so the idea really is to make it as simple as possible. With one donation, you're supporting 10 different organizations and you're doubling your impact. And really interesting array of organizations as well. One of the things we wanted to show with both iterations of the fund was all of the different ways that local organizations are working on climate. So this year we had three focus areas. The first was around energy and built environment. So in that group, we have Powerhouse Texas, Solar Austin, and Measure. So these are organizations that are working on energy policy, solar access, and the environmental impact of AI. The second group was our second focus area was around natural systems and land use. So we have Austin Youth River Watch, Fruitful Commons, Arosha USA, and Land Just Community School. So these organizations are focusing on things like protecting our waterways and expanding tree canopy, mobilizing the faith-based community, and also advancing Indigenous land sovereignty. And then the third focus area is around community resilience, equity, and education. So in this group, we have Keep Austin Fed that I know you guys have partnered with, our Children's Trust, and Public Health Watch. So these organizations are connecting climate to other issues like food security, legal accountability, and investigative public health journalism. So again, the idea is to give a potential donor a sort of one-stop shop to donate and support a lot of different issue areas through one single donation.
That sounds amazing. It's awesome to see so much going on, and I appreciate you supporting the ecosystem that is here. So, Jenny, it feels like we're kind of at a pretty big inflection point, maybe with our climate work as humanity. Why isn't it now a really important time to be supporting things that are better for our climate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in many ways, we people realize that we feel the effects of climate every day. I mean, particularly here in Central Texas, where it's getting hotter every summer, where we're having extreme weather events like the flooding that affected our region last year. So, there's the dramatic sort of effect on our day-to-day lives from weather. But people often don't realize how that affects other aspects of life. When it comes to affordability, the cost of energy, when it comes to access to food, the ways that it's affecting our health. There's a lot of data now coming out about the effect of heat, not just for the people who We hear about when we have a heat wave and maybe actually lose their lives, but just the long-term effect. It has high impact on learning. It's really hard for kids in classrooms to stay focused when it's 90 degrees in their classroom. And so these things are touching every aspect of our lives. They're getting harder every day. And, we're at a point in time that if we don't take more dramatic action, there's going to be no turning back.
Right. I know for us, being new to Texas in the last couple of years, it's quite challenging for us to do the things that we really like to do outside when it's 100 degrees, right? And so
Yeah,
that's changing our behavior and therefore changing the economics of the city, right? A lot of people are
absolutely.
leaving the city in the summertime. I think another two things that I've found since being here is that the air quality is low and a problem due to our gas plants and our coal plants and also our traffic, all those things adding to low air quality, which is, of course, impacts our health. And then the third area, which I've been more aware of in doing this work recently, is that, for every degree that it gets hotter outside, we have to spend more money on air conditioning in order to have a livable, a healthy environment. And so, a lot of people, uh, the cost of electricity is a big portion of their monthly expenses. And so things like solar and batteries can lower that cost for them. And that rising temperature is not a 20-year from now problem. It's a today problem for those people. In fact, over 89,000 families get customer assistance from Austin Energy because their electricity bills are too high today. And maybe a lot of people don't know, but in general, Austin Energy has had a goal of a 2% increase in rates every year. Well, this year they just increased them by 5%, right? And they're planning to continue to increase them by 5% going forward. So, if you're making 50, $60,000 a year and your bill is $200 or $300 a month, it's challenging for you. And so, I guess some people say that's an equity challenge, right? Like it's just not equitable to have electricity cost that much for those people.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And what maybe people don't realize is we have families here in Austin every day that are making a decision between turning on the air conditioning and putting food on the table. And that's, not a viable solution for our families. The other thing I would add to, in addition to what you shared, is just thinking about access to water. There's both issues around clean water and ongoing pollution from industry. So, I love the work that Austin Youth River Watch does in both cleaning up our waterways, but educating youth around the importance of that. But just access to water. Corpus Christi has been making the headlines the most recently in Texas in terms of the issues they're having running out of water. But we're having those same issues here in Central Texas as well.
Yes. And the hotter it gets, the more water you need as a human,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
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 So interesting. And how could listeners, people who are tuning into our video today, how can they be supportive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the easiest way is to go to our website, which is ctxclimate.org. And there you can find information about the 10 organizations that we're supporting this year. There's a link to donate. You can also sign up for future communications about the collaborative and find other resources about different initiatives that are happening right now in Central Texas.
And there's also an event that the public can attend next week on Wednesday, right? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are co-hosting a breakfast at the Austin Community Foundation. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 17th at 8:30, and we're going to have a panel of several of the organizations that we're supporting this year, including you, David, and the other David, David Leffler from Public Health Watch is going to be moderating a discussion that will also include Mimi Stiles from Measure to talk about the work that they're doing around AI and data centers, as well as Veronica from A Rocha USA talking about the work that they're doing with the faith-based community.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So we have the 17th, and then on the 20th, Solar Austin is hosting an event. So you can check that out at solaraustin.org. It's open to the community. It's going to be at 900 Springdale Road, which is going to be our annual summer solstice celebration. So it's going to be a really good time. Food and drinks are included in the ticket price. So we're excited about that. And we have live music.
Yeah. And a great way to see solar panels in action, right?
That's right. We have a big 20 kilowatt array there, creating some awesome shade and reducing and providing reliable, affordable, clean electricity for the 900 Springdale Road Food Park. So that's fantastic. Yeah. And so, anything else you want to share before we wrap up, Jenny?
Yeah, the one thing I didn't mention is that the Climate Action Fund is housed at the Austin Community Foundation. So it's what's called a field of interest fund there. So they help us to administer all the back end, receiving donations and then dispersing them to the nonprofits. They also helped us with their application portal. So just a great example of the work that they're doing to catalyze philanthropy in the community as well.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Solar Austin is currently supported by these generous donors. Learn more at solaraustin.org.